The NCAA football game is being released, and I think this, for especially people our age, is a very exciting time. I mean, I have guys that haven't played Xbox in years who are like, I got to get an Xbox.
I
So,
haven't played Xbox
yeah,
in years, and I might get an Xbox.
just to play this game. And we're not going to talk too much about the actual game. Maybe we give a little review on it when it actually comes out. But there is an intriguing aspect, and it comes down to their top stadiums, their loudest stadiums, their hardest places to play has recently been released, and it's one of the worst lists. I think
Yeah.
I think random people that didn't know anything about college football but have just heard about it, maybe just on this show, could tell you that these are not the loudest stadiums. And the one that really tops it off right here is the University of Alabama at number one. The University of our at number two. The University of Alabama. Listen, Alabama, they are a coat and tie lawyer society up in that place because they've won too much. We've talked about how much they've been spoiled winning, and in the biggest games like LSU comes to town, you'll see some of that. And I think this will change now that Nick Saban and that success has kind of faded. Georgia's kind of
failures gonna. I mean, do them justice.
When Georgia comes to Alabama, that game is going to be insanity. That atmosphere will be as good as you find in college football. But that is not what Bryant-Denny has been for the last decade. It has been it has been a church service on Saturdays in Tuscaloosa. So calling it the second place, and they took things into this thing. Like one of the biggest things they took in was home winning percentage. Guys, that is not judged. They have the best team. They have the best talent. Of course, they are the best team at home.
Yeah, I think that, the defining feature of toughest places to play should be something along the lines of you're a home underdog and you win outright. Something along those lines, happens more often than not. Where it does happen in the SEC is at Auburn, where Auburn shouldn't be, in the conversation of winning this football game, or even they're double digit underdogs at home and they lose by one possession. Something like that would have done much better than a team like Alabama, whose home winning percentage over the last decade plus has been near perfection. I mean, when LSU won in 2019, it was the first time the Tigers won in Tuscaloosa since
2011.
Yeah. I mean, it's been atrocious. When Nick Saban first got to Alabama, those were the games in Bryant-Denny that you wanted to be at and the one that they're talking about. But over the course, like you've mentioned, winning has brought an entirely different group of people to Alabama. Out-of-state people, business, money. Generally speaking, those guys aren't the ones getting slam damn hammered and yelling all game. I mean, you go look at any Alabama regular season game in the Nick Saban era, that stadium's empty in the second half because they're up by 70 points. So I think, the criteria is obviously flawed. I think everybody can, really agree upon that. A&M at one, I think, received a ton of backlash. We went to LSU. I'm always going to say Death Valley is the toughest place to play. And I think, if you go and ask SEC players or even just any player, they're going to say Death Valley. Tim Tebow said it. That famous quote where he goes, Death Valley is just different. LSU is just different. And it is different. With that being said, College Station is an unbelievable stadium environment. And I think anybody who was trying to take something away from A&M because they're weirdos, trust me, I hate them. They're weirdos. Absolutely the weirdest people in college football. That stadium is ridiculous.
I actually have no problem with Kyle Field.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm going to argue because I hate him and I'm an LSU alum, but I think people who are just bashing him to bash him have never been there.
There's a lot of places on this list I think you could have number one, and I wouldn't have a problem. Bryant-Denny wouldn't be one of them, and that's why them being number two is kind of like the one that really stood out to me. But number one, if you had Penn State at number one,
I don't think that
Happy Valley is insane. You wipe that place out, it's one of the toughest environments you'll ever see, even whether they're a team or whether it's not. If you had Auburn at number one, I wouldn't even complain because I've been to Auburn. I've been to Auburn for Georgia games. I've been to Auburn for LSU games. Yeah. I have been to Auburn at noon. I have been to Auburn at 3:00. I have been to Auburn at night. I have been to Auburn for the Iron Bowl. And it doesn't matter who they are playing, what time they are playing. And it doesn't matter that they look like a church. Like all those kids look like they
rolled out of 11 o'clock service.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the loudest fan base. And those people may not be liquored up like they are at LSU, but I can tell you one thing, they are some of the loudest people. That is one of the only stadiums I've been to multiple times. I do not remember hearing myself think. I couldn't hear myself think. It was it was penetrating my ears like sounds that I have not heard before. So I will give credit where credit's due. I hate Texas A&M. I hate Auburn. I hate all SEC teams unless they're the LSU Tigers and Georgia Bulldogs fans out there. But I think, they're correct. Like most SEC teams for the right matchup
I was just about to say
are going to be insane.
I was just about to say this. So Georgia was 5th on this list, and Sanford Stadium. I grew up a UGA fan. I just went to LSU because I followed the money. Sanford Stadium is, I'd say, in the same conversation as any average SEC stadium where they have a good team or a big matchup. They're going to show up. It's going to be as loud as any stadium ever, but it's not that notorious top 5 in college football. Between the Hedges is iconic, but it's not that Jordan-Hare spooky or that Death Valley roar. That's not in the same conversation.
We got to go to a break, but we'll continue this conversation after the break.